4 months on the road. Is RV living for us? Stay tuned as we talk about what we've been going through for the last 4 months as we've moved out of our house, sold our house, and hit the road in our 2025 Brinkley Z 3100. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Real Trailer Life. My name is Patrick.
And I'm Wendy.
And today we're going to be talking about our life on the road. We're going to cover the ups and downs, the campgrounds that stood out for us, and the things that we did that really stood out for us, and our WWR. What is WWR?
Would we return
Would we
campgrounds?
return campgrounds? Yeah. So.
And don't forget things we've learned the hard way.
Excursions and activities that we've truly enjoyed. Our thoughts about, is this life for us? What's next? And
Something only RVers will understand and see a little bit of humor in it.
so we're going to first talk about our ups and our downs. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about a company out of Elkhart, Indiana called ABC Upfitters. They're a company that designs and installs RV solar systems that are just amazing. They use Mastervolt products, and whether you have a Class A, a Class C, a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, a van, they can design a system that is going to be perfect for your solar needs. So if you're looking to get off grid and you really want to have a very synergistic RV solar package, we encourage you to reach out to ABC Upfitters. They can be reached at 574-333-3225, or you can email them at sales@abcupfitters.com. They'll give you a free consultation. They'll ask you about how you plan on using your solar system, and then they can design a system that will fulfill your needs off grid. So please feel free to reach out to them. They're an amazing company.
Customer service is great. They really take care of you.
Yeah, we've had an extremely great experience with them. So don't hesitate to give them a call or send them an email.
So, my 3 ups. I have thoroughly enjoyed visiting this beautiful country, seeing places that I haven't seen before, and just traveling day to day. And travel day for me is fun. It's exciting because we get to get up and know that we're gonna spend the next night in a new place.
Travel days are, they're a lot of work, don't get us wrong, but the nice thing about travel days is we are going to a new experience. We're going to meet new people. We're going to experience a new campground. We're gonna experience new activities that we just haven't had before. So yeah. What's your next up?
Since we've retired, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and I like that part. I enjoyed working, but I more enjoy not working.
Yeah, I mean, even just the time that we get up. Of course, if everybody knows me or anybody knows me, they know that I get up early in the morning, and even since I retired, I still get up early in the morning. 4:30, 5:30 is typically when I get up in the morning. The nice thing is that, you know, our biggest decision is really what are we going to wear today, or what activity
Not even.
are we
I mean,
going to experience today.
I'm actually getting kind of tired of what's in my closet.
Yeah.
We gave away so much stuff that it's like, but we'll hear about that in some of the downs. Anyway, my last one is, I never thought I would like building a YouTube channel or a website. I'm not good at editing or doing all of that. I typically don't like being behind a camera, but I'm enjoying this process. It's given Patrick and I a common thing to do together that has been really fun, challenging, but really fun to do, and I really enjoy doing it with him.
And Wendy's really stepped up to the plate, trying to learn how to do the blog and trying to learn how to help with video preparation and video production, and that part's been pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of good fun.
You're the cameraman, you're the editor, you're kind of the genius there. So I think it's a good team so far. We're having fun. That's what it's all about. That's what we wanted it to be, fun.
And one of the things I want to say is, if you really enjoy our videos and you're having fun watching us, please make sure you give us a thumbs up. It just helps our channel grow. So
Yeah, and if you have a topic or something you'd love to hear us cover, give us some ideas. That might be fun too.
yeah, you can put it in the comments down below.
Yeah.
So all right, what's your last up?
That was my last up. I did
that
3.
was your last
Yeah.
up. All right.
Yep.
So do you want to do? Let's do.
Why
let's do your downs first.
I can do my downs. Well, missing my boys every day. I think the last year before we sold everything we owned and moved into this full-time RV living, the boys were living with us, right? Yeah. So every day I saw him. Nicolo had finished 4 years of college and was back home helping us with the house and everything. And Angelo had graduated from high school and was looking on to next steps of what he was going to do. So he was always there for us with the dogs, but it was like I saw him every single day. And now it's once a week we get to FaceTime, which is still great, but I do miss them. So that is a down, as well as my friends, missing my friends and missing important things that have happened in their lives since we've been gone because I couldn't get home. So that's been hard, you know, and it's harder for me to build a community, I think, on the road than Patrick. I'm more of an introvert, he's more of an extrovert, so that has been harder for me. With moving all the time. Now we are finally at a location where we'll be here a little over 2 months, so we'll see how.
Yeah, we've already started developing some relationships here, which is really kind of nice.
Yeah, and I think my last just kind of down has been figuring out not only the dogs, but the amenities in a campground and what we need to make life easier, not only for us, but for them. Putting their kennels up and down every day, or when we want to take a short road trip, we take them with us. Because they haven't learned, you know, to really stay quiet in an RV. But they're getting there. We have gone on small, like hour-long times where we're not far away and we can get back to them. And even our neighbors said the other day, they only howled for a little while, a couple of times, and then they were quiet. And then this last time they had mentioned they never heard them once we had walked away. So
yeah, and we have collapsible kennels that we got off of Amazon. I know that we've put a link to that in our blog on our website. They're nice, and you know, before when we were traveling so much, we used to break them down every day and just stack them on top of each other. Now we leave them put up when we just bring them outside because we know that we're going to be here. And we should have been doing that maybe before because it's really pretty easy just to set them outside and not have to worry about them sitting outside.
Well, they're out of the way. They give us a little more space.
Right.
You know, we don't have a big toy hauler, which...
Wendy would like to have a big toy hauler, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So.
All right, how about your ups? What are your ups?
So I guess, you know, the biggest up for me is, and I know some people are going to maybe think this is a little weird, but spending time with my best friend. You know, it's really strange when you live in a working relationship where both of you are working and you actually spend more time at work than you spend with your family. Awake, that is, you know, and so it's really nice just to be able to spend time with the love of my life and with our dogs. Our dogs don't know what to do because we are around all the time, and I think that's pretty enjoyable for them, maybe a little bit annoying for them at sometimes too. It's really not that bad. That would be my biggest one. My second up would be just seeing some of the most amazing places that we've seen so far. You know, one of the top things on my list was go to Acadia, and we did that. We went to Niagara Falls and just
both the U.S. side and the Canadian side, and those videos are available to watch too.
That's been kind of a nice plus. And if you know me, I like to photograph things, and I like to take some pretty amazing photographs, which I like to think they're amazing.
They're really good.
And then my last up would be that I don't have to work. No offense against anybody that I worked with in the past, but it's really nice not to have to work.
That goes to missing the people.
Yeah, I do miss the people that I worked with. You have a work family, and we don't have a work family anymore. All we have is this family, the two of us and our two dogs. And of course, we're trying to develop a family by creating YouTube videos and reaching out to people that we don't know, and hopefully they can experience our life with us and become part of our traveling family, our RV family. So downs. So let's talk about a few of the downs. And again,
they're kind of similar, some of it.
You know, like you, you know, you miss your friends, you miss your family. Probably the biggest down. I miss my friends. I miss, you know, hanging out with Heath and Barbara, or John and Kathy.
Or our besties. Indi and Patricia.
We miss them too. So, yeah, it's just really, that's the hardest part. But We still try to, as much as we can, FaceTime with Andy and Patricia, and we still talk with Heath and Barbara via email and texting.
Well, it's kind of like with me with Cindy and Deanne. I mean, we spent every month we would do a girls' night together.
Right.
And so I haven't been able to do that. And so, yeah.
And you still get text messages from Tom and.
Yep. Tom and I, especially on game day.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, and funnies that happened at work. So.
Oh, you know, that's another down that we didn't even put in our list is we're huge Vikings fans, and
that was tough.
We don't have the NFL package. We just don't think that it's in our budget right now to pay for that. So we get to experience the Vikings via Paul Allen,
which
on
is
K-Fan.
awesome.
So yeah,
iHeartRadio, but K-Fan, he's. He makes me laugh a lot. There are very, very funny statements that I've actually texted Tom once in a while that he has said, because
he's that
when
funny.
you're watching it on TV, you don't get Paul Allen.
Right.
Only on the radio. So yeah, so that's been fun. But yeah, we do miss being in person and watching the games too.
So my next down would be the fact that I don't have everything that I used to have. We started this process of getting rid of stuff.
Too late.
Too late. Well, we thought it. I mean, we started probably 3 months before. We should have started about a year
and a half before.
And you know, it came down to the final night where we were purging stuff, and you know, I'm afraid
Just
that
ask
some
Andy
of the
and Patricia.
yeah, I'm afraid some of the stuff that we purged that you know we wish that we had right now, but again, they're just things, and you know, we have a lot of still really nice things, and
well, we were looking for that.
The Freedom.
The brick.
Oh, the brick. Yeah, we're trying to find our brick from the Vikings. We don't know
It's
where
a brick that was laid when they built the new Viking Stadium.
Right.
And it had our names on it and as one, which was interesting because then how many years later was that?
It was just last year.
Was it just last? No, it was the year before last.
Year before last, the Vikings used as one as kind of their logo. We had that brick laid when they first opened up the stadium. Mm-hmm. And we have some necklaces that we got in Ireland that are in a Gaelic alphabet that say as one too. So that's kind of been our saying all along. All right. So yeah.
Well, we have a list of campgrounds.
We do. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the campgrounds that we really, really enjoyed and that we would revisit again.
WWR.
Yeah. Would we return?
No, we
would
return. WWR.
We would
return.
So the first one is Hawks Mill Winery, and that is in Monroe, Wisconsin, and we stopped there.
Our very first night.
No?
I think so.
No, I don't think it was our very first night.
Well, anyway, what better place to stop at a Harvest House Winery? I'm telling you, come on.
And it was beautiful.
And it was we had electric
50
and
amp
everything.
Plug-ins
and we could run the vineyard with our dogs. Nobody was there. It was just us.
Yeah, that was a beautiful place.
It was awesome.
And the wine was really good too.
Yeah, it was good. Mm-hmm.
And then the next one would be Shipshewana Campground, the South Park. We've stayed there a couple of times. The last time that we stayed there was right before we brought the Brinkley in to have the ABS system put on.
Yeah, we stayed there with our Lance too.
We did stay there with our Lance when
That's
we
right,
did
in Shipshewana, Indiana.
Yeah, when we did the factory tour at Brinkley.
Yeah. We also liked the Elkhart one.
Yeah, the Elkhart Campground. We went there. That's where we met the guys that own Liquefied and Matt's RV Reviews.
Yeah, Pat was looking out the window. He's like, that's him. I know that guy. And
we ended up meeting him.
It was fun. They were good guys.
Yeah, we had a great conversation. So, and then after we left Elkhart, after we got the solar package installed, we went to this gem. It was called Solder Village, out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
It was really fun. I was like, where are we going?
But this campground is beautiful. The sites were huge.
Especially our row.
Yes.
And you can read a review
in our campground reviews on our website, www.realtrailerlife.com.
Lots of trails that we could go off leash with the dogs.
I want to say miles of trails.
Yeah, it was a lot of
trails. I mean, there was
trails.
a lot of trails, and they were cut trails in fields, and so that was just amazing. So, and then there was one area where they obviously had planted these trees, but they were the tall trees that had the canopy was super high, so it it looked really cool in there.
It was a great campground, and you could go to the old Sauter Village, you know, kind of a reenactment of
the development of Ohio
Yeah.
from the beginning to I think the 1930s or something like that. So, and we went through that, and that was pretty cool
was
too. The next one would be the Grandview Camp Resort and Cottages in Modus, Connecticut. One of the reasons why we really like this is, first of all, the management. They were veterans, and we always like dealing with the veterans. But we were put into this site where we were away from everybody, and we looked out into this hill field. We saw beautiful sunsets and beautiful sunrises because there's nobody around us on, I don't think, either side. For a couple.
For a while, yeah. And the nice thing was the dogs could run, and of course they were on leash, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, of course.
We'll oftentimes run our dogs off leash when we're away from everybody, just because they like to do that. But we still have them on a leash because we do use e-collars. So.
Yeah, we do have that.
And the next one would be Dogwood Acres out of Newville, Pennsylvania.
I do want to say, though, that I wouldn't return to Grandview unless we were at that same site.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have taken the other sites.
A lot of sites are pretty tight and not as roomy as our site was. So.
No, ours was perfect.
So the next one would be Dogwood Acres out of Newville. This had there was really big sites. It was all rock. I remember that. They had a Ronald McDonald there when we...
Well, that's because they had a connection with that.
The Ronald McDonald House. They donate to the Ronald McDonald House. And it was raining the entire time we were there.
The entire week we were there, but they had a really nice dog park that was fenced. They also had a pond area that you could walk the dogs around.
And that was really close to Gettysburg, which we did. And I'm sorry, but you know what? Doing Gettysburg when it's raining is probably raining, foggy, misty. That actually made going through Gettysburg National Military Park
it was
amazingly.
Intense.
Yeah.
It was intense.
And there's a video out there on YouTube that you can see a lot of the photos that we took when we were on that trip. So
right, no video because
you can't video in national parks, and we see this all the time.
Without a permit, so.
Yeah, without a permit.
Yeah,
but
so
we see this all the
that.
time. People are violating the law, and they risk getting fined, and they also risk getting banned from the national park. So we choose not to break that law, and hopefully it'll change soon. And then the next one would be the Gerald R. Freeman Campground in Sutton, West Virginia. Now this is an Army Corps of Engineer.
Right. The only thing I want to say about that one is getting in.
The drive there.
The roads were very narrow.
And very windy
and hilly.
And there were some areas that were a little sketchy as far as the tar washout was probably...
Yeah, so that would be... And I remember commenting, I would never want to, not that we ever do or we try not to, arrive at night. But if we had to do that road at night, I'd have turned around. There's no... Well, you couldn't have turned around because there's nowhere to turn around. But that would have been horrible. And then we met that couple.
Right.
And what did he say?
He said that they came in at night.
Because they got out of somewhere late because of the storms, and then had to do that at night.
Now, the only bad side about Gerald R. Freeman was the water. But we have Blue Technologies water filter system, so it really didn't affect us. But we ended up replacing the filters after we left there. And it's a good thing we did have the filters because they have a lot of rust in their water.
And we were there during downtime. I don't know what it would be like during high season because that campground was really empty.
Yeah, there's maybe 20 sites that were filled, and there's probably over 100 sites total on that campground. And then the next one would be Charlestown State Park, which we've been to several times.
Right, that is a WWR.
Yeah, and not only...
Also, it's close to our grandkids.
Yeah, not only would we return there because it's close to the grandkids, but we would also go back again just because it is a really nice state park.
Beautiful state park and great hiking trails around it. Yeah, beautiful hiking trails.
And they have full hookups, and it's not as expensive as a lot of other places are, which again makes it one of the reasons why we would go back to that campground.
We love it there.
So,
yeah.
So, and then we were driving through Oklahoma, and we went to Wanderlust Crossings.
Oh, well, we thought we were pulling into like a fancy Italian restaurant up on a hill with waterfalls all around
brick buildings. I mean,
two-story brick building.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. And that campsite was probably one of the nicest campsites that we stayed at.
Unfortunately, the weather was one of the worst.
Yeah, and again, you can go out and see a video of the weather that we experienced there, but it was not the best of weather.
No, there was
And
tornadoes and hail and wind and nasty rain.
we didn't experience any tornadoes, but there were warnings that were out and watches that were out.
Because we left early.
We did leave early.
We chose to leave 4 days early or something like that.
Right, right.
And otherwise we would have. And it was scary because we've seen some of our other YouTube family, other channels out there that
we're in Oklahoma.
They were hit and they were in storm shelters. We fortunately didn't have to use the storm shelters that were plenty.
Yeah, there's several
shelters.
underground storm shelters there, and that should have been our first clue. But no, it's a very beautiful campsite.
Coming from Minnesota, you're just not used to that.
Right.
We're, you know, but even one of the wine place, it was not a winery, not they had an underground storm shelter by the flag.
Yeah.
Great winery, buy it.
Yeah.
And then
Saguaro Skies Fam Camp at Luke Air Force Base. Now, we got there kind of by accident. We went to a campground in, I want to say Deming.
It was not our favorite spot, but it...
Yeah, so we went to this campground in Deming, Arizona that had these things called goat heads, and if you know what stickers are, these are our hard-thorn stickers, and they had them all over the campground.
It's in our blogs, too.
Yeah, and they got in the dog's feet, and they were bloody, and so we were supposed to stay there for 14 days. We stayed 4. We left there and we went to Luke Air Force Base.
Which is fabulous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Beautiful campground.
Yeah.
$40 a night, free wash and dry, all full hookups, right next to the commissary, which if you don't know a commissary, it's a grocery store and a military base, right next to the exchange, and if you don't know what an exchange is, it's a department store on the military base.
And you could buy alcohol at the gas station.
Yeah, class 6, and that's all tax-free stuff. So that was really kind of nice because it really helped save some money. And then we ended up coming down to where we are now in Tacna, Arizona, a week early, and that's where we're going to be for the next 2 months from now on.
When you think about it, we left Minnesota the end of July.
Yep.
And we've been moving, every week to 2 weeks.
Yep.
Pretty consistently. From all the way up to Maine to now Arizona.
Our longest stay was in Maine, and that was for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And
otherwise, it's been,
1 week, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. So
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Dogs are doing pretty well right now.
So next, we want to talk a little bit about some of the excursions and activities that we did that to us were pretty amazing or that we really enjoyed. The first one was unexpected because we really hadn't planned on going there. But it was Indiana Dunes National Park.
This was also when we decided that we were going to get the National Parks book.
Passport book.
The passport book, because we've been to a lot of national parks, but we never bought the passport book or got the stamps or, and we thought, let's do that. That would be fun.
They're one of the only parks that don't have the passport books, so we weren't able to get it.
But we should have stamped a piece of paper or something.
Yeah.
We just forgot. So we'll have to go back, but that's okay.
A lot of dunes, and then it takes you right out to the waters of Lake Michigan, which is pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Of course, those gulls.
The seagulls, they're not seagulls,
they're
the birds.
The whatever.
Ruby went crazy trying to catch all the birds.
She was trying to fly to go get them all.
It was pretty funny.
That was fun.
The next one would be Niagara.
Drop dead gorgeous.
Right, and we did the Canadian side first. And the Canadian side is really, there's 2 total dynamics between the Canadian side and the U.S. side. The Canadian side, the views are really stellar and really amazing.
And close up.
Right, close up. But it also...
If you want, you have this huge walkway, like a cement boardwalk.
Yeah, and it's more commercial. It seems more commercialized. But the views are totally different. And then the very next day, we went and we did the U.S. side, and that is actually a state park. And that was, it's just as beautiful in its own way, but the views are totally different. And you feel the spray coming off of the falls, and you can see rainbows and
of course the wildlife was fun for Ruby to try to chase again.
Squirrels, both dogs, squirrels and birds, but mostly the squirrels. Around. So yeah.
No, we met. It was fun. Just Yeah, we had a great time on both sides. Took a lot of photos, spent a lot of time. We didn't do any of the big Bridal Veil Falls boat.
Yeah, no.
We didn't do any of that. We enjoyed watching the people that were doing it,
but we had the dogs.
We had
with
the
us.
dogs, so we couldn't do those.
So we couldn't do those.
And we are not going to leave our dogs in the car.
So next would be Acadia National Park.
It's on your bucket list.
Yeah, it was on my bucket list, and you know, it's got Cadillac Mountain. And if you don't know what Acadia National Park is, it's the only national park that is in the northeastern part of the United States. And the views from the top of Cadillac Mountain are amazing. We tried to get a sunrise pass to take photos up there, but we weren't able to do that. It was about a 2-hour drive for us to get to Cadillac Park. And we left pretty early in the morning as it was, and we got there around 9 o'clock, and we were pretty much the only ones there. There was maybe 20 other people on top of the mountain, which was nice because we didn't have to deal with any of the crowds. Plus, it's off season. We're in the shoulder season, and if you don't know what shoulder season is, it's like right before winter and just after school starts. So that'd be the shoulder season in the fall. And in the spring, it's just after the snow melts and just before school lets off. So those are the shoulder seasons. But Acadia was grand. I mean, just driving around and seeing the different views that they had at Acadia, the different things that were there were pretty amazing. We wanted to do this one hike, but we were told that we probably shouldn't do it because we had the dogs. And so we didn't really do any hiking at Acadia. And then next would be Gettysburg National Military Park and Cemetery. And I really didn't know what to expect. I never saw anything about Gettysburg before other than the fact that I knew that it was there, and wow, was it amazing.
It's a drive. You drive it, and there are stops along the way.
Hundreds of stops along the way.
We took a lot of photos there.
Created a video too.
We had mentioned earlier in this video that it had rained that whole week, and so we were at Gettysburg. It wasn't like downpour rain, but
misty, kind of drizzle,
cloudy, drizzly,
and foggy, which was kind of cool too.
It's very, very sombering.
Yeah, it was the bloodiest battlefield in the Civil War. So if you want to do your research or you want to see the video, it's pretty amazing. We only captured some of the monuments that were there, and there are literally hundreds of monuments at Gettysburg.
We also went to the cemetery.
We did go to the cemetery too, and there were Minnesotans that actually fought in
it was a very important part of the Civil War. There was a monument for them, and then also where they were buried.
And I think one of the things that really stands out in my mind is the graves and the headstones of the unknown soldiers, which is just so powerful. And then the very next one would be Cadillac Ranch, which is totally...
Well, these aren't in any order.
Right.
Like, this is not in the order of when we did them, but...
But Cadillac Ranch, it's right outside of Amarillo, Texas. It's on the west side of Amarillo. It was about 1.5 miles from our campsite. We really didn't know what to expect there. It had been raining, so when we got there, there was a lake
all around all of the Cadillacs. You could not spray paint the Cadillacs that day because there was, unless you had
boots,
which we didn't have our mud boots at the time with us.
But we had the drone.
We had the drone, and it was fun to take some drone videos of that.
So the next one was really quite a surprise to us. It's called Chiricahua National Monument.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just another one that just totally amazed us because we really didn't know what to expect. I looked at some pictures online, but
I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, neither had I. And it was about an hour drive from where we were staying in Deming, Arizona. That was quite amazing. We got some photos of that, and some of those photos are available on our website as well. The next one, and again, like Wendy said, these aren't in any specific order of how we traveled. White Sands National Park. And
so we could take the dogs, right? And it was like hiking. So it said it was a 5-mile loop hike. Literally, when we finished, my Apple Watch went off that said we hit 6 miles. So,
which wasn't bad. I mean, but it's just an amazingly beautiful hike, and all of the different dunes that you see, and it just goes on for miles and miles, it seems like.
Well, remember, we followed barefoot.
Barefoot.
There's a path of someone who was hiking barefoot. And so we kept finding
Yeah, so
barefoot.
the thing is, you know, there's markers, and you go around to these different markers when you're doing the hike, but sometimes it's easier to maybe traverse a little bit off of the marked trail. And it seemed that every time that we traversed off the marked trail to make it a little bit easier for us, barefoot was there as well. So that was kind of just funny. We don't know.
I still have blisters on my toes.
Yeah, that was
on my hiking boots.
That was a long hike, but the dogs did great, and
it was fun. It was super fun because again, it was off season, and I could not imagine being out there in the hot sun because it's sand dunes everywhere. There are not trees.
That would have been.
I mean, there were literally signs at the beginning about making sure you had water. And,
there's no water beyond the front gate, and you have to have your own water. So next would be photographing the northern lights at Charlestown State Park in Indiana.
Who would have ever thought you would have seen the northern lights in Indiana?
Well, that's the second time this year that the northern lights had gotten down so far south, or even as far south as Florida and Texas. But to be able to shoot the northern lights in Indiana and have our family see them, and when I say our family, it was, so it'd be my daughter and our granddaughters, and even our son-in-law, who had never experienced the northern lights, and he got some really great photos as well. And then next would be New River Gorge National Park in West Virginia. Now, the interesting thing about New River Gorge is that when I was working in Kentucky in the 1990s, I went to New River Gorge, and I whitewater rafted on both the New River and on the Upper Gauley River. So to go back to see the New River Gorge for me was pretty amazing. We did about a 2.5-mile hike. Took some great pictures of the bridge there. The bridge that goes over the New River is just amazingly beautiful, and it's super long.
And when was the last time you were there?
It would have been 1997, I think, 1996 or 1997. And one of the things is we went to the Upper Gauley, to the Summersville Dam, where when we whitewater rafted the Upper Gauley, we put into the Gauley River right at the Summersville Dam. So we actually walked down to it. The road was paved, and there was not as much water gushing out of the dam as there was when we actually did the whitewater rafting trip.
Again, there's a story of that in the blog.
Yeah.
If you want to check out a little bit more on that.
The Gillette Castle State Park.
We had no idea.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. That was in Connecticut, and again, you know, we're just driving around, and
we had gone to the Devil's.
Yeah, there was like a falls, Devil's Falls, or something like that.
And we were so excited. We thought it was just going to be so cool.
And it was a nice little waterfall, but it was a little disappointing as a very small park. And then we found this Gillette Castle State Park.
That was fun.
And a very interesting story. The guy that built the castle ended up giving it to the state.
The state, yeah.
So, but that's a beautiful castle. We couldn't get inside. It wasn't open for us to go inside to see the actual
they do
inside
offer tours.
Castle. But yeah, they do. And then the Rockland Breakwater Lighthouse, and that was in Maine.
That was in Maine, and that was, once you got used to it, because it's not like, let's just walk on this breakwater, like,
there was a breakwater. It was a break in the ocean, and when I say break, it would stop the big waves from rolling into the bay. And it was built by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they used these huge rocks that basically looked like a Tetris that they tried to stick everything together, but there's these big gaps in between a lot of the rocks, and you could walk out, and it was a mile-long walk to get out to the lighthouse. It was interesting because Ruby would just watch the birds and not pay attention to where she was putting her feet, and she would often fall into some of the crevices that were in between the rocks, and it was another interesting hike, but we had a really good time.
It was fun, and it was, again, a lovely day. We had a lovely day that day.
Yeah, and then also in Maine, I got to do a little lobster fishing. Army buddy of mine, we went out on a boat of a friend of his, and we went out and checked 5 lobster traps. We ended up collecting 5 big lobsters, and that night we actually cooked a lobster dinner with fresh caught Maine lobsters, so that was pretty amazing. And then we stopped at one of the very well-known places in the area there for lobster and crab rolls, which they taste amazing, but they are super expensive.
Those are like $26.
Yeah, $26 for a lobster roll, and I think it was $24 for a crab roll.
They're super good. It was totally worth it.
Yeah, when in Maine, right?
Right.
So
Gotta have it. It was fabulous.
And then another interesting thing that we experienced that we didn't really know much about is when we were in Lockport, New York. There is the Erie Canal locks that we went to in Lockport. And I think there was 5 or 7 locks in Lockport. But the one that we went to, we actually videotaped and watched the whole series of, the boat comes in and they raise the level, boat goes to the next one, raise. And
You need to know what you're doing as the
as a
skipper
ship's captain,
or whatever
yeah.
you want to call it. But it was, I have never seen it.
It was very interesting to
Yeah,
watch.
it was very cool. And so we were lucky that actually there was 2 boats that we got to, 2 or 3 that we actually got to see go through the series.
In both ways.
Yeah.
So we saw them going like north and then going south. But the Erie Canal, I just didn't really realize we were that close to it, so we got to experience that as well. So, and then the last one on our list would be the Marblehead Lighthouse, and that's a state park also in Ohio.
Yeah, and that was really lovely. It had a nice grounds that you could walk around. I stayed with the dogs while Pat went up in the lighthouse.
There's like 87 steps or something up a spiral staircase. And,
but you got to get some amazing pictures.
Yeah, I did. I was able to get some really nice photos.
And
there,
that drive we took along.
Then we hiked too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we went to another area in that same state park area, and we hiked out by again the lake there. So
yeah, and it had a dog-friendly beach, which of course ours wouldn't go in the water and go swimming, but we enjoyed that.
Right.
So that was really sweet. But we've been very fortunate along this trip to get to see some really great things, and I know there are some others that we still want to do. So.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna
stay with us because we got lots more to show you.
All right, so let's talk about things that we've learned the hard way.
Always, always, always check your slide before you put them out or bring them in. Bringing them in, that was always easy. That's not a hard thing to do, right?
Well, it was a lot different.
Because it's open. You can walk through your trailer and make sure there's nothing in the way.
It was a lot different in the Lance than it has been in the Brinkley because we didn't have the center island. And we could walk through. We had one slide on the Lance, and we could walk through when the slide was in. I mean, and we knew if there was anything under there or whatnot, we could see it. But we have opposing slides on the Brinkley in the galley area, and they butt up right against the center island, and you can't really see what is going on underneath the slide flaps.
Well, and it caught up with us. We learned the hard way because we had checked it. We would crawl over, right? And there was never anything there. Everything was always fine, but we always checked, and then there was the one time we didn't, and that one time made the worst sound ever, and both of our hearts just dropped.
Yeah, I think tears came to both of our eyes because we don't want to damage our trailer. It's our house, and what had happened is something had fell out of one of the cabinets during the trip, and instead of like we normally should have done, gotten up over the island and checked to see if there's anything on the ground there, we didn't do that. And sure enough, something
a big
had fallen.
Electronic piece that had fallen.
Had fallen out and gotten trapped in between there, and it didn't do any major damage. It bent a couple of things, but we were able to get those fixed. It bent a bracket that were going to get replaced, and so it could have been dramatically a lot worse.
But always, don't ever assume. It's okay. Always check. Crawl over. If you have a Brinkley 3100 and you have to crawl over the island, just do it.
We double and triple check now, both when we're pulling them in and when we're putting them out.
Yeah.
So.
And that's also about same thing. Double check that the campground has what you wanted to have.
Yeah. So that's another big thing. Campgrounds will say that they're dog friendly, and that's true. They are dog friendly, but
there's
they're
no
not
place
dog
for
friendly.
a dog to run off leash.
Yeah, or off leash, or there's no
dog park.
But
or there's
dog friendly.
Goat heads everywhere.
Yeah, that's another thing that we've learned along the way, but we're getting better at that. I think every time that we do that, we try to get a little bit better.
And I think the biggest one for us, for us, is we can't do wash in our RV at this park. So we've got 2 months and a week where we can use their facilities. You have to pay for it,
It's $2 for a wash. We have to use their washers. We can use our own dryers,
Yeah,
and it has to
but-
do with the septic system here.
We'll get used to it, but again, you know.
So the next one is only having one propane tank on at a time. And why is this important? Well, we have two 30-pound propane tanks, and when you have one tank on and it empties, it automatically shifts over to the next tank. And the problem with that is you don't know when your first tank is empty, and we actually ended up running out of propane. So
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. And so it was a little
cold
chilly.
morning.
But so what we do now is we have one propane tank off, one propane tank on, and once the one propane tank is empty, we can switch over to the other one, and we know that we have to fill the first one.
The other thing
So-
is you bought a way to measure.
Yeah, and
So there's a video
really,
out on that.
Yeah, the only really accurate way to know how much propane you have left in a tank is to weigh the propane tank, and there's a whole video about that. And
So we've been good at doing that. So just being weather prepared,
Yeah.
I think, is important,
Yeah.
right? You need to be weather prepared. And, you know, for us, we did talk a little bit about downsizing and that we did it too quickly. Like, we
Yeah.
needed more time. Don't get rid of because we did it so quickly, we had to get rid of things that
we may not have really
we
wanted
now
to get
really
rid of.
want them.
But on the other hand, we may have kept way too much stuff too.
Well, yeah.
So,
But if it wasn't for our friends Indi and Patricia, we never would have got through that last night. And my son
yeah.
was with us. And
If you are downsizing and going full-time into an RV, start well in advance of downsizing and get rid of stuff. It's not as easy as it sounds to get rid of stuff. Lastly, let's
is
talk a
this
little
the
bit.
life for us?
Is this the life for us?
I don't know, is it?
I think
It
it's an
is.
amazing life.
It is. For now. Right
For
now,
now.
in retirement, in the beginning of our retirement, this is exactly what we want to be doing. I do.
Yeah,
I think you do,
I do. I enjoy seeing new places. I enjoy seeing this beautiful country. I enjoy seeing the amazing things that this country has to offer, from the national parks to the state parks to the national monuments to even just the drives that you're taking when you're driving down the road are pretty amazing.
The mountains and seeing the sunset, you know, or behind the mountains or rise. You know, it's been lovely. You know, I think too, we'll see. After the holidays are coming up, and
Yeah.
that's going to be hard. You know, Thanksgiving is this week, and just not being with family will be
Tough.
It will be real tough.
Yeah.
But you know, well, so far right now, this is what we want to be doing.
So what's next for us? Well, we are here for 2 months. We leave here and we go to Sedona. We'll be in Sedona for a month at a beautiful campground
Oh,
there.
the views I can't wait for. It might be a little chillier, but I don't care. Those views are going to be gorgeous.
And then we leave there at the end of February and we make a cross-country trek over to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee for a rally up in the Smokies. There's going to be over 105 Brinkleys there. And that is going to be amazing. So then we leave Pigeon Forge. We're going to head up to Minnesota. On the way up there, we may stop in Indiana and have some service done on the RV at Lippert there in Elkhart, Indiana, or Goshen, Indiana, I should say. And then we're going to head up to Minnesota. We'll be able to see some family and friends, spend some time up there, get some doctor appointments done, dentist appointments done, those things that we need to get done while we're up in Minnesota. And then we plan on heading up to Canada and Alaska. Our goal, hopefully, is to cross the border around the middle of May, end of May, and start making our trek up towards Alaska. So now the last thing that we want to talk about is just funny things.
Because okay, you have to admit, Patrick came out of a rest area, and he said, "Guess what I just did." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "I tried to flush a regular toilet, with my foot."
So if you don't know how RV toilets work, you flush typically with your foot. It just becomes so habit.
So that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I did try to flush the toilet with my foot.
And
So
also making sure your blinds are closed before you start changing.
that's another big thing.
Or
because
come out of the shower, whatever it is.
a lot of
because-
times your
Whoops.
neighbors are extremely close to you. And then the last thing would be
You're either one or the other. Glove club or no glove club.
yeah, so I wear blue gloves when
We're
we
glove club.
change the, when we do anything with the black tank, gray tank. But there are some people that just don't do it, and I just don't get it. But that's entirely up to you.
That's the thing. That's what's funny. It's glove
Yeah.
club or bare hands club.
Yeah, so, well, that's it for today. And if you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. so that you can get notifications when our next video comes out. And until then, safe travels and stay adventurous.
Thanks so much.
We'll see you next time.